Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Dyvonne and today I'm celebrating reaching 20,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I'm going to share with you this wonderful coconut bundt cake. We're going to doll it up using a box cake mix and some homemade frosting. You ready? Let's get started. So for our box cake, I'm using the white cake mix, or you can either use vanilla, and I'm going to be using some butter. This is unsalted butter. I'm going to melt the butter, and I'm also going to let the butter cool. Now when it comes to dolling up a cake, and this is the 14.25 ounce box of cake mix. Now when it comes to dolling up a cake, that is something that I always have seen my mother do throughout her life, my aunties do, and that's something that a lot of women did back in the day. You want to get the most out of a nice quick box cake recipe. They would always doll it up and enhance it. Way before the term cake hack came out, I remember these ladies doing this in the 70s and 80s as I was growing up. So to my mixer, I added that white cake mix, and then to that, I added 1 cup of milk. Now with the milk, you can use regular whole milk or either 2% milk. Today I'm using 2%. Now I'm going to be using 1 box of pudding. This is the 3.4 ounce box of pudding mix, and this is instant pudding. I'm using the coconut cream. If you don't have or you can't find the coconut cream, you can use the vanilla cream. Okay, the vanilla pudding. And you want to make sure that you're using the instant pudding. So I'm going to add that also to my mixer. Now I'll also share with you a couple of other tweaks that you can do to this recipe to your liking, kind of depending on your taste. So we went on and we put in our instant pudding, and we're going to be using 4 large eggs at room temperature, because those room temperature eggs blend so much better into our cake mixes and into our batters. And with my milk, I let the milk sit on my countertop for just a little bit, so that way it wasn't ice cold. Just about 15 or 20 minutes, just to kind of knock the chill off. I'm also going to put in some extract. I'll be using vanilla extract, but you can also use coconut extract. So for the vanilla extract, I'm putting in 1 teaspoon. Likewise, if you're using coconut extract, you can also put in 1 teaspoon. Now, if you're going to be using the instant vanilla pudding, I recommend using the coconut extract if you're using the instant vanilla pudding to really get that more pronounced coconut flavor. Now we have here some shredded coconut that we're going to be adding to the mix to also help enhance that wonderful coconut flavor, in addition with that coconut cream instant pudding that we also added in. Now for the shredded coconut, I'm using a 1/2 cup, and we're going to add that, but we're not going to add it directly to the mix just yet. I'm going to share with you a little trick that you want to do when you add your shredded coconut. And you can either use shredded coconut or flaked coconut, either one. So when I'm using the coconut, I took a tablespoon. I'm going to actually end up using 2 tablespoons of the dry cake mix, and the reason why I added the 2 tablespoons, I'm going to do a 2nd tablespoon right now, of the dry cake mix to the shredded coconut or either flake coconut, either one depending on which one you're using, is because when we add the shredded coconut, when we add our coconut later to our cake batter, this is going to make sure that it's going to be all throughout the cake, and that those flakes won't just go straight to the bottom of our cake. So that way they'll end up settling on the bottom, and to keep that from happening, it just needs a little coating of that dry cake mix. So now our butter is melted and it's also cooled. You do want to cool the butter before adding it to your cake mix. And so once we've added our cooled butter, and that was a 1/2 cup, which is 1 stick, and that was unsalted butter. I'm going to add in my eggs, and I like to try to drop those eggs in one at a time, because that way it gives the blade to just kind of capture those eggs and break them down really nicely. So I have my mixer on low. I'm going to let the eggs go ahead and slowly incorporate to the batter. Now, if you are new to my channel, I want to welcome you in. And if you're a returner, I want to thank you for coming back. I want to thank you for all the wonderful likes, shares, subscribes, hyping my videos, and your good vibe comments. I truly appreciate it. And if you enjoy good home recipes, baking from scratch, or either how to doll up a wonderful box cake mix, how to make a variety of homemade frostings and recipes, I hope you consider subscribing. And so what I like to do is I like to stop my mixer. I use my spatula, and you see how there is some of the cake mix that's settled at the bottom of our bowl. You want to make sure that we have that all incorporated with the rest of the batter. Our mix is looking good. I'm going to go ahead, stop my mixer. I'm going to unplug it, and then we're going to finish off. Anytime I have anything that I like to add extra, I like to do that step typically by hand, because we want to make sure that everything is well blended into the mix, but we don't want to overbeat our cake. So in there, I added that 1/2 cup of shredded sweetened coconut, and then also those 2 tablespoons of the dry cake mix we had. And then with my spatula, I go ahead and I just blend that in until that cake mix, that dry cake mix, just starts to dissolve within the batter. And then also my shredded coconut gets combined with everything. And that gentle motion of rotating my wrist when I'm blending the mix together, I found is a great way to do that. So everything is looking good. I see the flakes of the shredded coconut in there. The mix looks like it's all blended in. So now I'm going to be using a 10-inch bundt pan. Now for my bundt pan, I've sprayed it with some nonstick spray, and I've also went on and I floured it pretty generously. And so this is what you want to do. You want to use some nonstick spray or either some butter and also some flour. This is kind of old school, so you want to go ahead and do it like that. Making sure that if you're using a bundt pan like I am, that you get in there with all the fluted areas. That way so that your cake does not stick. Another thing that you can use is Baker's Joy. Now Baker's Joy is not always something that's in every single market, but if you're able to find some Baker's Joy, you can also use that to spray your cake pan, and it'll give a nice, quick, and easy release. Now while I'm doing this, my oven is preheating on 350 degrees, and my cake is going to bake in my oven anywhere from 35 minutes to about 45 minutes. I like to check it at about 30 minutes just to see how it's doing. And so if it's jiggling in the middle still, then your cake isn't done. You want to go ahead and let it continue to bake. But anywhere from about 35 minutes to 45 minutes at 350 degrees, our cake will be ready. And so once I have my batter in, I like to just rotate. I use one hand to rotate my bundt pan, and I use the other hand just to kind of smooth out the top, just like that. So that way our cake bakes up nice and evenly. I do a quick little tap on my countertop. My cake is ready to go in the oven at that 350 degrees. Well, it's been 45 minutes. My cake is out of the oven. It has baked up nicely. It is looking good. You can smell that coconut in there. And so we're going to let this cool. Now, when I let my cake cool, I let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes, no longer than that. And then I go ahead and I start to shake it. I shake it to start to release it. Another thing you can also do is you can use a butter knife to go around the edge and just kind of go around the edge of the outside and the inner ring of your cake to start to lift it up. When it comes time to flip, you see how I do one quick flip and then one straight up motion to release my cake. And then my cake has released nicely right out of the pan. Now when we use that flour, you have a little bit of that flour, that residual flour on your cake. It doesn't affect the taste or texture at all of the cake. Now that my cake has been cooling out of the pan for a couple of hours now I'm going to work on our frosting. For our frosting, I'm using salted soft butter, and this is 1/2 stick, which is 4 tablespoons. We're also going to be using 2 cups of powdered sugar. Now, if you were going to make this into a layer cake, you would double the frosting recipe. In the description box below, I have a list of ingredients that I use, some of the tweaks and variations that you can also use, as well as the frosting recipe. And at the end of the video, I'll share with you a visual of all the ingredients I use to make my coconut bundt cake. So after I add in the 2 cups of powdered sugar, then I'm going to also add in some vanilla extract. This is 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and you can also use coconut extract if you like. That was 1 teaspoon. I go ahead, I get my mixer going. This is regular milk. This is 2% milk. You can use 2% or either whole milk. For our milk, we're going to add our milk in tablespoon increments. So that way we're looking for a particular consistency that's spreadable. You want to use plus or minus based on your liking when it comes to how thick or how thin you want your frosting to be. For me, I start off with the 2 tablespoons and I work from there. Typically, I'm using anywhere from 2 tablespoons up to about 4 tablespoons, but I add them in just a little bit at a time. Then halfway through, I like to stop my mixer, making sure that I get any powdered sugar that's at the bottom of the bowl. Likewise, the same thing if you're using a hand mixer, you want to make sure, or if you're just mixing it by hand with a wire whisk, you want to make sure that you're getting all of the powdered sugar and the butter blended in together for our frosting. And I'm using salted butter for my frosting, but you can also use unsalted butter. And if you're using unsalted butter, put a tiny pinch of salt in there. The reason is you do want to balance out the sweetness of the frosting. So having either a pinch of salt if you're using unsalted softened butter, or when I use salted butter, I don't add any additional salt. So our frosting is looking good. It has a beautiful, nice, spreadable texture. This is what we're looking for, nice and fluffy. So on our cake, I went on and I started to frost our cake. And when you're starting to frost your cake, you do want your cake cool to the touch before you start to frost it. Likewise, when your cake is in the cake pan, and you're letting it cool before you turn it out, the maximum you want to let that cake cool in the pan is about 15 minutes. Anytime that you start to get past 15 minutes and you start to approach like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that your cake has stayed in the pan cooling before you turn it out, what will sometimes happen is your cake will start to sweat in the pan and start to become gummy on the outside, and it's going to be hard to get out of the pan. So be sure that when you bake your cake and you're letting it cool in the pan, you want to let it cool for maybe about 10 minutes, no more than 15 minutes, and then go ahead and release it out of the pan. Now, these details and tips that I've learned from my mother and the other seasoned women bakers and cooks in my family, I have found that it has made all the difference in my cakes, the presentation of my cakes, and it's those little details that get passed down that make all the difference. Well, we have used all of our frosting. It was perfect. It's the perfect amount of frosting for our bundt cake. And now you can have it just like this, but we're going to add some shredded coconut. Now, the difference between shredded coconut and flaked coconut, because you can use either one in this recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and just shake on and put around the sides just about as much. You kind of just do as your heart's content, really. You can put as little or as much as you want. It's up to you. But the difference between using shredded coconut and flaked coconut is this. Shredded coconut is thinner and it's finer than flaked coconut. Flaked coconut is chewier, and also the flaked coconut is a little bit wider, and it has a stronger coconut flavor. So if you want like a mild coconut taste, you would want to use the finer shredded coconut. For the flaked coconut, you want a chewier, more pronounced coconut texture and flavor. That would be then the flaked coconut. And then both bags will say sweetened. It'll be sweetened flaked coconut or either sweetened shredded coconut. Now that I've gone on and I've patted on my coconut on the sides and around the top, we're going to go ahead and give it a try. I have our plate ready. You guys are the guests in my kitchen today. We are celebrating reaching 20,000 subscribers. Let's go ahead and cut into our cake. And this is a great cake for the holidays. Easter is around the corner coming up. It makes a wonderful cake for Christmas. It is looking so good. And if you'd like to have toasted coconut for your cake, you'd go ahead, you'd want to use a couple of cups of the coconut in a dry pan, and gently toast it over a medium to low flame until it's a nice soft golden brown. Let it cool and then go ahead and put it on your cake. Well, that bite's for you. Go ahead and take your bite. Now I'm going to take my bite. Oh my goodness. You can taste the little pieces of the coconut in the cake. It has a nice coconut flavor, good balance. Well, I hope you give this recipe a try, and I hope you enjoyed spending time with me in my kitchen. And for that visual of the different ingredients that I used, it was the sweetened shredded coconut, 4 eggs, the coconut cream instant pudding, 1 box of white cake mix, the vanilla extract, milk, and the unsalted butter. Well, that is it for me today. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up, hype it, and click share. Share this video with a friend or family. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.